Welcome, my friends. And yes, it's me, your friend Alexander, bringing you another episode of The Dream of the Week. This one I call City of Murder. Now, the last few episodes have been about what you might call hippy-trippy kind of topics. I've covered Ascended Masters. I've covered crystals. You might be thinking, I'm all light and love kind of guy. You know what? That ain't far from the truth. But we all have our dark sides. And today, I'm gonna cover a dream on the darker side of reality. Let us begin.
Picture the outskirts of a modern-day city that borders a great dry desert, a withered place of squat brush and twisting rock formations. Here on the edge of the city, horrible murders are being committed, the victims found cut to pieces and put on display in the streets for all to see. The killer is a twisted man who takes pleasure in his murders, elevating them to a type of art form. He slays many, but is eventually tracked down and caught in a place where the city sewer empties out into the desert wastes. The killer dies in a great explosion, yet from his body come two tiny vehicles like remote-controlled cars. The tiny cars carry with them a type of magic, and many people who come across them are also compelled to carry on the killer's work. Each successive murder creates more of these cursed cars, each one carrying with it a sinister persuasion. Soon the murder spree is spreading all across the city.
So, I know some of you might be thinking, is this guy a psychopath or what? Is he into murdering people? Truth is, I've always been a law-abiding citizen. I've never gone out there and murdered people or even done anything even that nasty at all. Generally, I'm a nice guy. But I've had dreams like this throughout my life. They're not the norm, but every now and then a very dark side seeming dream pops up. I find myself asking, what is the deal with this? Do I have a hidden part of myself that would like nothing better than to take a bloody knife and slaughter a bunch of people? Does this represent something repressed within me? Some kind of angry and hectic energy just waiting to get out? Or is it symbolic for something else, something deeper, something other than just straight up murder? Even the nicest people I've found have some kind of what you might call dark side dreams. Dreams filled with violent, bloody, and strange imagery. Even consulting something like the Bible is normally thought of as being the epitome of the light side of goodness and love. But if you look at that book, it's filled with violent stories, tales of babies getting their heads dashed against steps, tales of incest, murder, people getting eaten by dogs and burned alive. You know, even some of the nice stuff has its dark side, and is that a bad thing? Should these darker aspects of ourselves be locked away? Should they be regarded as forbidden, nasty, and you don't go there at all? Should we look at them like that? Or should we shine our light upon them, and by doing so, stop them from being dark anymore? Well, here I am today to shine the light of our awareness on a very dark dream. This is a dream about murder, a dream about a serial killer. Lots of people dying here. Nothing so bright and good going on. You could even say it ends on a negative note. Or does it? Here to question that today. According to a certain school of symbolism, death in a dream, and we see plenty of death here. Death represents change. From a spiritual point of view, when something dies, it doesn't really cease to exist. Death is merely a change of state. Energy is neither created or destroyed, it just changes form, as those sciencey people would like to say. So death can represent change, at least in the minds of some. So let's look at it that way. What do we get when we look at this dream from that context? Let's look at a few of the other symbols present in the dream, according to that same school of thought, because it's kind of good to remain consistent with these things. According to that, a desert is a dry place, a place where there's very little going on consciously, where your day-to-day experiences have kind of winded down to a point of inactivity or not much going on there. And the city, it could be seen as a place where our various aspects converge, where the various parts of our minds link together, like different homes in a city link together, and where we communicate with ourselves. This same school of thought says to look at every person in a dream as if they were an aspect of yourself. Thus, if we see an aspect of ourselves killed, that is, we see them changing form. We see various aspects of ourselves changing. Looked at in this way, a murderer, a serial killer, is this very determined, very strong part of us that wants change to be brought about. The change that is represented by these various other aspects, these other people being killed. Clearly, looking at it this way, there's a part of me that wants a lot of change to go on in my life. That wants all these kind of tired old aspects represented by these people in this dried up desert city to go away, or rather to become something else. Something better? Well, maybe better. Murder isn't always discriminate that way, and sometimes when you're not feeling good about something, at least in your mind, any change would be better, whether that's true or not. So if I were to take the idea that a dream represents what went on in my mind or my waking life in the last few days preceding it, what do I get here? Does this make sense to me? Sort of. Sort of is what I have to say. In the few days preceding this dream, I didn't have a whole lot of dynamic changes happening in my day-to-day. I didn't have a change of job or a sudden change in relationships. I wasn't moving around a lot physically. I didn't make any trips. But of course, you could say a dream is more representative of what's going on in the inner life rather than the outer. Mentally, do I have a lot of changes going on? Well, always, so that's not too helpful. I always like to take new ideas into my mind, to shift around old ones, and admittedly, I have been looking at various parts of my life and deciding where I want to go with them. Looking at that symbol of the desert again, symbol of a state of mind that's kind of dried up, could be representative of that point in our lives that we get to where there's no growth going on, where there's not a lot of stuff happening in our waking lives. That kind of still point. It could be a good time for self-reflection, but it could also be frustrating in a way. And maybe there's a part of me that was rebelling against that part that wants to see action happen, that wants to have a lot of cool, kick-ass things going on in my life. Maybe I could see the dream as a reflection of that inner killer, that inner rebel that wants to create change. Even if that change is not always nice. Sometimes it feels better than that stagnation that had been building up for a while. And you know what? I admit this. I do have that stagnation in certain parts of my life. Not every part of my life, mind you. Dreamwalker Memoirs, now that's not stagnant, but hey, you know what? We all have that. On some level of our lives, something that we're not pleased with. I've mentioned several times in this series that Dreams also allow us to access aspects of our personality that normally don't show up in our waking lives. Now, I like to regard human beings, truly conscious human beings, as bigger than what they appear to be. We all have different parts of our personalities. Maybe I have a latent killer within me that just never surfaced in this life because the right circumstances never popped up for it to become active. Do I have strong psychopathic, murderous urges? No, I don't. I don't really want to go out there and murder a lot of people. That's not what this dream is about. I bet a lot of you out there watching this have had some dark dreams of your own, whether it's like this or depicting something else that maybe you ain't fond of in your waking life, but that's still in there. Whether this dream is really symbolic of anything going on the inside or not, it does, I'd say, provide a kind of therapy to me, a kind of release. These really dark, messed up dreams let me look at a part of me that I'd never see going out to work every day or hanging out with my friends on the weekends, just not a part of my life. Now, my views on reincarnation, multiple lives, that shifts occasionally. Kind of go from one point to the other, but I know it's possible. And according to certain schools of spiritual thought, we're much larger than our current identities here on Earth in the present era. There's aspects of ourselves, say in the Middle Ages, in the Victorian period, in ancient Egypt. Some of us are peasants. Some of us are pacifists. Some of them are murderers, are assassins, are bold warriors. Some are completely insane. And according to certain types of thought, all these lifetimes are going on simultaneously. All these are a part of us. Much in the way that if you play a video game on the computer, that avatar on screen is kind of a part of you. It's kind of expressing something that you are. In no way is that the totality of you, but it's a part of you. You might go and log into this game and start shooting people. Doesn't mean you'd shoot people outside of the game, but within the game, that's okay. That's the game. So, in conclusion, today we looked at a bit more of a messed up dream, a dark side dream. A dream type that I feel all of us have. Whether as kids you call it a nightmare, or when you've gotten a bit more mature and are examining yourself, you might not call it a nightmare anymore, but an opportunity as self-examination. So I'll see you all next week on Dream of the Week. Again, my name is Alexander, and this video has been brought to you by Dreamwalker Memoirs. Goodbye, my friends.